my name is Jermaine Higgins with HireGI. I'm the Senior Veteran Recruiter. I'm here today to tell you about turning a job fair into a job offer. What you're going to learn today is what are the key things that you should do to separate yourself from your competition. What do you do before the job offer? What do you do during, and what do you do afterwards? It's going to allow you to be very successful and ultimately get that job. Welcome to HireGI. So let's talk about job fairs. How many of you guys out there have been to a job fair and you walk through it aimlessly, not knowing what you want to do, how to do it, what to do, all that good stuff? Well, I'm glad you came. Today, we're going to really talk about the great things that's necessary for you to get that job. So let's kind of talk about job fairs in general. Does anyone know where they all came from? Believe it or not, job fairs started after World War I. After service members went to war, they went to school on the GI Bill, and guess what happened? Schools had to get the GIs hired, so they started job fairs. Now, you ask yourself, that is great, so what are job fairs really all about? The core about a job fair is to match the employer with service members or job seekers, right? So the ideal is for them to meet face-to-face, to talk, to get to know each other, exchange business cards, to network, right? Your network is your net worth, which 80% of jobs come from what? Networking. And this is an opportunity for you to get exposed. Now, as a service member or as a veteran, this is a great event to help move the needle to help you find jobs. So let's talk about some strategies about preparing for the job fair. First thing you must do is go to whoever career fair you're going to, whether it's the Bays, whether it's ours at HireGI's, etc., and you need to register for the event. And you say, why should I register? It's hard to be committed. How do I do that? Well, the purpose of registering is if they have on-site interviews, this will allow them to set up pre-screening interviews before the event. So they'll be able to have your resume, send them to the employer, and allow them to schedule an interview for you. This will also allow the employers or help the employers be aware of that you're coming and what skill sets you have. So they may request to speak to you at the job fair, and that helps move the needle. So it's not a bad thing to pre-register. It's a great thing because it allows the employer to be prepped, and it also allows you to have opportunities. Second thing that might be strategic for you to do, if the employer has a website where they ask you to create profiles, I would say go out there, create a profile, and make sure you make your profile as full as possible. A lot of times with a lot of websites, it allows the job seeker and the employers to connect. This is great because this now gives you 24 hours of access that you probably won't get at the job fair. So they'll be able to look for you before the event, during the event, and obviously after the event. Now the key that you want to do is do some research about the employers attending. So you want to go look on the website or email the organization hosting the event and find out who's going to be there. Your second step, once you know who's going to be there, do some research. Figure out what does that company do, what positions do they have open, are they veteran friendly, find out all the necessary information. This is going to be critical because you won't be going into a job fair asking this basic question that most veterans ask. So, what do you do? That doesn't help you separate. You already know what they do. You already know what positions they're hiring for. This allows you to be more prepared. Next thing I would do is then look on the website. Do they have job postings from that organization? Look out there, find out what the job postings are, and start prepping yourself if any of them meet your needs. Now, strategically, from a job seeker perspective, if there is a job that you're very interested in, guess what you should do? Target your resume to that job. So that means that if you know you're going to the job fair and that employer is going to be there and they are looking to hire in that position, we'll target your resume to make you look like the perfect person. Now, something I want you to analyze and kind of think about. Why do employers create job postings? They create job postings because it tells the employer or job seekers, this is the perfect person for the job. So guess what? It's your job to say you're perfect. So you want to target your resume to that job, okay? Then when you're at the career fair, now you're giving them a resume that has impact versus a generic resume that may not be impactful to the job, All right. So research, 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 research is critical for the job search. The other thing you want to do is, how many of you guys ever heard of a portfolio? Well, a portfolio is used in two ways. One, a portfolio is that leather book that you can hold your resume and all your accomplishments. And then a portfolio also shows your work, right? You want to go and bring a portfolio of your work if necessary. In your portfolio, you might want to bring great things that's going to separate you from the competition. You may bring your evals, hopefully they're good. Bring your resume that's targeted or generic ones that show your skill sets or the industry you're trying to get into. You may even bring awards to justify why you're such a great candidate. So you bring those extra things that may allow you to separate yourself in the job posting. So being prepared, doing research will allow you to be one step ahead than your competition. The next thing that's critical in your preparation is dress for success. Now, some of you guys are probably saying, oh my God, I feel so nervous. I'm getting out of the military. I've always worn a uniform. Don't let this discourage you. The rule of thumb is always dress one level above your day-to-day attire in your industry. So that means if I work with my hands and I have overalls or jeans on, then I need to wear khakis and a polo shirt. If I'm going into a white collar job and I'm wearing slacks and a shirt, then I need to wear a suit, okay? Now, if you wear a suit every day, don't wear a tuxedo. That's the exception, okay? Now, for the job fair, you want to dress as if it's an interview. You never know where it's going to go. So you want to dress professionally to your industry, okay? The next thing you want to do is you want to practice your handshake. How many of you guys ever had a handshake where someone shook your hand, not looking in your eyes, or gave you that wet noodle handshake? I know, the worst. You want to give a firm handshake, eye contact, and smile when you say your name. Be excited for who you are. What do you bring to the table, right? Handshake is the first sign of body language that employers look for. So you want to practice that, practice that, okay? Next thing you want to do is, who's ever heard of the 30-second pitch? If you've gone through your TAP classes or any transition workshops, they teach you that all the time. Your 30-second pitch is basically communicating, what is your brand? What do you bring to the table? Who are you that makes a value for me to listen to you, okay? Now, this 30-second pitch needs to be 30 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on the environment, okay? You want to bring out the skills that make you relevant. You want to bring out who are you and your brand and what are you looking for so that now employer knows who you are, okay? Keep in mind, this is not a question about your personal life, but your professional life. If it's an organization that doesn't really relate to military, right? You might want to use transitional words that are not military focused. So you need to learn how to speak in civilian translation so that they understand the impact that you bring to the table. So practice your 30-second. If you need some help on your 30-second pitch, feel free to reach out to HireGI. If you go to our homepage, we have a contact us form. We'll be happy to help you figure out your 30-second pitch to make you prepared. But that is critical in the job search as well as in the career fair. The next thing you want to do is practice sample questions that you may be asked in your industry, right? So imagine going to the job fair, you're having a great conversation with the employer. What's the probability of them asking you a question? Probably pretty high. So you need to kind of practice basic questions so you're prepared. So 3 questions you're possibly going to get asked. 1, why are you leaving the military? Well, not knowing why you left the military could be a challenge at a job fair or in an interview by itself. So you may think about why are you leaving that's going to make the employer feel like you're a benefit to them. You may talk about things like, well, you know, I've gained a lot of skill sets in the military. I'm now willing to take these skill sets and apply them to a non-government industry. Or, you know, my passion is really to get into IT. Leaving the military allows me to take what I've learned and now moving into where my passion is of IT and working for an organization like yours. Whatever your answer is, you need to have that well practiced and understood. The other question they're going to ask you is, tell me about yourself. You need to be able to run me through your resume or give the 30-second pitch that we just talked about where the employer knows who you are. The third question that they may ask you is, how much do you want to make? Now that is something that may have to take you offline to talk about. But always remember, the first person that says the number loses. So you want to be able to defer that question. Well, I'm not sure what I'm looking for at this point. Like I told you, my passion is to transition to IT. I think right now, it's more about getting into the industry. Quick note for service members, if you're about to retire, you may be cautious if you're going to a non-federal industry talking about that you're retiring. In the civilian sector, that means you stop working. So you want to make sure you use the word transition or different things versus retirement, okay? So practice interview questions so that you're polished and ready to go. Couple things you want to do next is you might want to think about 2 or 3 questions to ask the employer when you're at the job fair. Don't ask simple questions that everyone asks, like, so what do you guys do? What are you guys hiring for? Think about strategic questions that's going to separate you from the competition. So tell me, for example, if you're going into the IT industry, you may ask a question, tell me about the type of software you use to execute in C++. How do you execute that? Or let's say you're going into Lean Six Sigma. Tell me, how do you apply Lean Six Sigma in your organization versus the military? And how does my skill sets a benefit to you? You might ask questions like, someone that's going into your organization, what % of your organization are veterans, and do you consider yourself veteran friendly, and why? At this point at job fairs, it's okay to ask certain questions that's going to give you knowledge. Because remember, you're looking to interview them as much as they are interviewing you. So think about some great strategic questions. And as you see on the board here, this will give you some great ideas of what to practice for questions as well as what to ask them. So feel free to download this at the end of this presentation so that you get those questions, okay? Next thing, at the job fair. At the job fair, it could probably be overwhelming. It could be scary if you've never been in front of employers. But if you prepared yourself that we talked about, you will be fine. You will have probably the best time of your life. And I'll give you the first high five when you're done. Now, at the job fair, you want to develop a game plan. You don't want to just walk into the career fair like, hey, what do I do? Hey, nice to meet you. Here's some questions. You want to think strategically. And what I mean by strategic is you've already prepared. You know who's going to be there. You know who you target your resume to. But you may say, you know what, I'm nervous. I don't know how to introduce myself. It's my first time. So you may go and create a game plan of ranking the companies from 1 to 10. 1 being the most important company I want to work for, 10 being the least. So strategic plan is maybe start at number 10. You may go to that company and just openly go. Ask basic questions. Practice your 30-second pitch. Get feedback on your resume just to get the jitters. And then go up the line until you get to number 1. I can assure you, once you've done it a couple times, you'll do fine, okay? So create a game plan. Who are you going to attack? How are you going to attack them? What is the end game? Do you ask for an interview? Do you get their card so that you can follow up? Let's say you go to a job fair and you have a year left. Well, the strategy, again, is to network. The beautiful part is now you have a business card to the hiring manager or HR representative that you can network with as you still have time in the military. So this will allow you to separate yourself long-term from your competition. At the job fair, it's critical to execute what you learned, right? So you want to make sure that you have the end result, get the business card, ask for the interview, network, all right? You want to make sure that you get something from each employer. You want to make sure that they received your resume and that your resume is an asset to that organization. And that's simply by asking basic questions. Worst case scenario, if it's your first job fair, just getting the jitters out so that you can maximize other job fairs in the future. So let's talk about after the job fair. This is one of the major steps that most veterans forget to do. Follow up, follow up, follow up, okay? Sometimes at job fairs, employers really want to hire veterans. And they may say, hey, here's my card, reach out to me. If they give you a business card and say, reach out to me, understand, reach out to them, okay? You never know what that opportunity may exist. So even if it's an industry that you don't want to be in, maybe it's a position you're not interested in, still follow up because you don't know who they know, okay? And they may even help you get to where you do want to go to. With the follow-up, the next thing that's very important is to send them an email thanking them for their time and how great it was to meet them. And this one is just showing that you're grateful and excited about any potential opportunity. Let me give you a little tip and a little trick, okay? Let's say you have a little bit of time, 6 months to a year. Oh, let's say you're about to get out. The thank you email, you may even ask an employer that you don't really care to work for if they mind looking at your resume again and providing feedback. Hey, I see that you're hiring for IT. Here's my resume. I know that we met at the job fair, but any feedback you give me will be great. What this does is this helps polish your brand. This helps give you insight to make some changes that when it's time to pull the trigger for a company that you really want, you're prepared. You may even ask that employer in your thank you letter, can we do a mock interview so that you can get the jitters out of the mock interview? Anytime there's an employer at a veteran-friendly career fair, they're there to hire veterans. That also means that they have a certain place in the heart of why they want veterans. And if I want veterans, then I also want to help veterans. So utilize that. Allow them to become mentors, if you will, to help you in your job search. Another great thing to do is that if you get the business card and the employer says, hey, go onto our website, apply for the position, what you want to do at that point in the thank you email is that you want to email them and let them know that you applied and what position you applied for. You might even give them a call. Why that's important is because in a lot of software systems for companies, if you let them know that you applied for that position, now you're letting the employer know to find you in their software system, which then allows you to stick out. This could be a great tool of separating yourself from the competition. Now, I want to talk about the last and final thing, the business card. Guys, when you get a business card, that is something that you want to keep. My recommendation is on the back of the business card, write about, some things you had in common or what may have been said in the job fair, so that when you write your email to the employer, you have something in common. A statement that we always say in Hire GI, employers hire people they like. So that means that when I meet you in the job fair, find things that you have in common, remember things that you may have talked about, and bring those things back up so it makes sure that it separates you from the competition. With the business card, do not just bring it home and sit it on your counter. Make sure you follow up, which I said a little earlier in the presentation. I can't tell you enough how many employers call us all the time and say, hey, I found some great candidates, but they never followed up. Follow up, okay? Now, preparation, execution, and follow-up is the keys to a job fair. Hopefully this is very helpful. Make sure you go and click on the button below. Feel free to download this PDF of some of the tips. Create your strategy. Feel free to reach out to us to help you in your transition. And we look forward to having you at our Hire GI career fairs. Thank you for joining us. Jermaine Higgins with Hire GI.